Good morning. Good morning. How's everyone? Good. A lot of you I know, a lot of you I don't know. I guess that would be the opposite of that. This is kind of like a home game for me, as many times as I've been in New Jersey. I have a lot of clients in New Jersey. I don't think that in life anything happens by consequence. I think you're always supposed to be where you're supposed to be, doing what you're supposed to be doing, talking to who you're supposed to be talking to. So I think we're all, for some reason, supposed to be here today. Okay? I'm going to try to help you a little bit with mindset, I guess, more than anything, on growing your business. Okay? You live in the most in my opinion, the most entrepreneurial business sector that there is. Y'all wake up every day. You have no idea whether you're going to make any money or not, right? Everything is driven by the actions that you consistently take. Everything is hampered by the actions that you don't consistently take, all right? So I'm going to talk to you today just about how I think life works. I was in Rhode Island yesterday, and somebody came up to me at a break and said, we're having a hard time understanding some of the things you're saying. And number one, I was in a room with this giant vault, and so everything echoed. But the bigger issue was, I said, I'm really sorry. I get really passionate about this, and I have to be conscious to not talk too quickly. Okay, so I will try to. Since they warned me about that yesterday, I'll try to not do that today. Let me tell you a bit about my story. I did meet Carl about 3.5 years ago. I had very long story, and some of you have heard this before, of how I ended up being here today. I got into real estate business in 1985, right out of college. I didn't intend to get in the real estate business. I intended to be a golf pro. I had gone to college on a golf scholarship. I realized that as an assistant golf professional, you would work a tremendous number of hours, making absolutely no money. And at some point, maybe you'd get a head pro job, and then you could finally start making money. I realized I didn't want to do that. So I graduated from college, and my game plan was to go in business with my father, who was a real estate developer. I barely got out of college, literally. I graduated 2.1 grade point average. You had to have a 2.0 grade point average to be eligible for golf. So I just slid right in. They called me Captain Hook back in college. As long as I could get my C, I was good. There was no reason to go beyond. I wasn't a good student. Graduated from college in December of 1984. My father sold every stick of property he owned in January of 1985, and he moved to Florida. And he did not offer to take me with him. He was my plan. He was my strategy. And I'm like, Dad, what am I going to do? He goes, why don't you go get your real estate license? He said, you can do that till you figure out what it is you really want to do. I'm like, okay. He goes, now I never liked realtors a lot myself. He goes, but I think it's pretty easy. He said, you just get somebody, you drive them around for a while, they find what they want to buy, and you make a pretty good chunk of change when it happens. And that was my mindset for the first 4 years of this. I got in the real estate business. Absolutely floundered. Now, floundered is in real estate world is a relative term. I was really doing about as well as everybody else was in Springfield. Making about $48,000 a year in commissions. My net income was less than 30. I had this epiphany one night that I could be a night manager at a convenience store, have benefits, and be far less stressed out. My wife wants me to quit. We've just had our first child. She's like, dude, you got to get a real job. This is crazy. You're like, don't sleep. You walk around the house all the time. We have no money. And lucky for me, my company joined RE/MAX. And I was exposed to a meeting somewhat like this at a regional level. And I came home that night, and my wife goes, what are you going to do? I said, well, I'm going to go back tomorrow. That was really cool. They started telling me things I didn't know. And, the hum stopped. Awesome. And there it's back. Yeah, we're going to get rid of that in a second, just to let you know. I got a video I'm going to play for you in just a second. And I said, I'm going to go back the second day. So I came back, I went to the second day, and I came home, and my wife said, all right, what are you going to do? I said, please just give me 12 months. I think I can figure this thing out. I'm a very competitive individual. Very competitive. I still am very competitive. I still play a lot of golf on a national level. I'm very competitive. Okay? I just needed somebody to show me how this worked. Set a goal to make $100,000 because I thought, man, thank you. Yep. I thought $100,000 was like manna from heaven. If you could make $100,000, man, all your world would just fall into place, right? It's not true, by the way. I'd made $100,000 by June. I set another goal to make another $100,000, and I made $92,000 in the last 6 months of the year. I made more money in December of that year than I'd made the whole previous year. And it was all just a decision. I decided to become what I now refer to as a student of the game. There's a game going on, guys. The question is, are you a player? It's a game. And it operates by a set of rules, and you'll hear me talk later about this. Just like baseball, baseball has like rules, and then you have to have strategies within the rules, right? I'm a big word game person, right? I love Scrabble. Anybody like to play Scrabble? Anyone? Okay, cool. So with Scrabble, here's the thing. You can know all the rules of Scrabble and just suck at playing Scrabble because it's all about strategy. So for you guys, it's all about strategy, right? It's all about consistent strategies. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. Carl will get next week, if you happen to come to his business planning class, he'll get into the details of it, right? But here's what I know about every person in this room. In your mind, you have the perfect business model. If time were not the issue and money were not the issue, you'd already be doing it. The space that I am blessed enough to work in on a daily basis is the disparity between what people have in their mind and the reality of their situation. I try to get in there and help them get closer to what it is going on in their mind. Because we all have the perfect business model, right? In your head, it's like, well, if time and money weren't the issue, I'd be doing this. So let's just go do that. Name of my company is See the Field Consulting. Okay? The reason for that is because of what I'm about to show you. One of my favorite movies, again, I'm a golfer. Just realize that, I'm a golfer. Pretty much everything I've learned in life, I learned on the golf course or I learned from my dad. My dad was a classic entrepreneur. My dad was the person that would tell you that he never worked a day in his life. And yet everybody that knew him would tell you he was the hardest working man they ever met. He loved what he did. He absolutely loved every moment of what he did. Building, developing on his tractor, grading, parking lots, right? That's how I was raised. We all had that entrepreneurial ilk about us, right? I had a job. I was a W-2 employee for 6 years as regional director of Remax Mid-States region. I was a horrible employee. They wouldn't let me do what I knew I needed to go do because of all the corporate structure and all that, so I quit. I just made that leap, and I said, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to go start a consulting company. And I might hear crickets. And I might crash my ship into the shore. But at least it's my ship. And mentally, that's where you all are, right? Think back to the time when you got your real estate license. The ink is barely dry on your license. And you probably thought two things. Number one, this is unlimited income. And number two, I'm going to have total control of my time. How you doing? I want to try to bridge that gap for you today. I want you to watch a movie clip. It's from The Legend of Bagger Vance. How many people have ever seen the movie The Legend of Bagger Vance? It's a golf movie, so a lot of you probably haven't seen it. But it pretty much sums up everything that I think you need to know in about 4.5, 5 minutes. So if you'll indulge me for a bit, I want you to watch this. Okay, that's all you need to know, right? I've watched this obviously hundreds of times. There are so many real estate analogies in there, right? He says there's so many different shots you could hit, right? One of the challenges in the industry is there's so many different ways you can do this. I'll talk about that in a little while. And they all work. Everything works. That's part of the dilemma that we battle, right? And in this movie, just to let you know kind of the setup for the movie, for that scene, he is 12 shots behind. He is an amateur player, and it's a fictitious match back in the 1920s against Bobby Jones and Walter Hagen, who were these iconic golfers. He is the local hero that has just come back from the war. But Walter Hagen, the guy that plays Walter Hagen, at the very end of that says, even a blind hog finds an acorn every now and again. In other words, even every once in a while, everybody can hit a perfect shot. That's a huge analogy for the real estate business, in my opinion. Because it doesn't matter what you do, the bird of paradise will kind of come and flop around on your desk every once in a while. Just often enough that you don't think you really got to get focused and get after it. I'm very lucky. I get to work with people who are focused and try to get after it. And what I try to help them do is get rid of all the minutia in their lives. So the question is, do you see the feel? Do you see the feel for your own business? Because you got to get clear on that. You're a very entrepreneurial group of people. You're very talented people. I know this. Okay? All we have to do is make sure that you stay true to what you enjoy doing, because that's the key to this whole thing. I believe everyone should live in their sweet spot every day. I'm very blessed. I'm very lucky. I get to live in my sweet spot. I could stand here and talk to you guys for 9 hours, and I would not be tired. Y'all would be tired. I would not be tired. Okay? I've been on both sides of this thing, over, under, around, and through the whole gig. I've almost quit the real estate business. I was a successful individual sales agent. I built a team. I have a story much like Knapp's story. I only made $700,000 one year and netted less than $75,000. And people said, well, how did you do that? I'm like, man, it was so simple. You have no idea. What you do is you hire people that aren't any good, right? Those of you that have teams in the room, you hire people that really aren't any good. You never work the leads yourself, so you don't know what your conversion rate would have been. They tell you the leads aren't any good that you're giving them. So you start spending more money to try to generate more leads for them that they say still aren't any good, and the reality is they're not any good. That's how you generate $700,000, in my case, net less than $75,000. Because you didn't have things figured out. You hadn't really totally worked it out on paper. We're going to talk about that in a little while. I believe this. There's a little voice inside of you that whispers all day long. And it's whispering what's right for you. Why don't you just listen to it? Because it's not going away, folks. There are things that drive you. There are things you enjoy. Why don't we just design a business model around what you like? Because I'll show you in a little while in some, I don't want to call it a study because it wasn't formal, but I'll tell you what, I know how this works. Because I've tested it out. And it was a theory for a long time. It is no longer a theory. Every person in this room can do whatever it is you want to do. And I don't mean that like in some hairy-fairy speaker kind of way. I just know it's true. I just know we got to eliminate the things that aren't helping you and get you focused in on the things that you enjoy. Steve Jobs said this, have courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. It's true. Please understand, you're not wired any differently than Steve Jobs was, or Bill Gates was, or Warren Buffett was, or Rockefeller was, or Getty was, or Carnegie was. They were just more focused. There was a great show on A&E years ago called The Men Who Built America. Did anybody remember that or watch it? It was the craziest show to me because they would go back in time when these guys started, and what I started to realize was there were like 15 guys trying to do the same thing. And the ones that you have heard of just stayed focused on it. And that's really that's the essence of what we're going to talk about today. Ayn Rand wrote this in Atlas Shrugged. Don't let the fire go out, sparked by irreplaceable spark, in the hopeless swamps of the not quite, the not yet, and the not at all. Don't let the hero in your soul perish in lonely frustration for the life you deserve to have never been able to reach. The world you desire can be won. It exists, it is real, it is possible, it is yours. And I don't know, has anybody ever read Atlas Shrugged? Other than me, a couple of us, right? It's a very polarizing book in society today. It's a very conservative book. People are like, oh, Atlas Shrugged. It's a great book. If you ever choose to read it, it's about that thick. And my little life hack for Atlas Shrugged is, when you get bored with her, like, she would take like 8 pages to tell you everything that was going on in this room. If you ever choose to read it and you get bored with her descriptions, just flip through till you find more dialogue. It works. Thomas Jefferson said, nothing can stop a man with the right mental attitude from achieving his goals, and nothing on earth can help a man with the wrong mental attitude. See, it's not about all the widgets and stuff. It's about this, right? It's about what goes on in your head. I learned this from golf. I don't practice much. I still win a lot of stuff. And everybody's like, how do you do this? Like, I just think differently than you do. I have a way, it's like everything slows down when I get in a tournament. And I just think. I was in Denver a couple of weeks ago. There's a gentleman by the name of Steve Harney. Does anybody know the name Steve Harney? He has a company called KCM, right? Keeping Current Matters. And Harney was one of the speakers. And he said, I'm going to give you guys 7 words. And I'm going to give him full credit. These were his 7 words, not mine. But they're crucial. He said, here's your first 2 words. Calm down. The next 2 words are sit down. Think, plan, act. That's all you need to know. Because right now, look at the real estate industry that we're being told we're coming off of, right? You guys, you're hearing this like, oh, it's slowing down. What are we going to do? So 6 months ago, we were so freaked out, or a year ago, we're freaked out because there's no inventory. Oh my God, there's no inventory. What are we going to do? We're freaked out. Now look at us. Oh God, there's inventory. What are we going to do? Right? Calm down, slow down, or sit down. Think, plan, and act. And that's what we don't do as an industry. We are the epitome of ready, fire, aim. We kind of get an idea and we go. And we don't ever really model it out and plan it out. I'll give you a little simple model for that. Life test is the hardest test you'll ever take. It's got 1 question on it. Even though other people will try to help you, only you can answer it correctly. There's no wrong answer, but once you answer it, everything falls into place. What's the question? What's the 1 question such that if you answer that 1 question, everything else falls into place? Always has, always will. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want to do? Because it'll work. Always has and always will. In 1996, I was in a mentoring program with a gentleman by the name of Bob Proctor. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of the Bobber or not, as I call him, the Bobber. I had a buddy that said, hey, I'm doing some work with Proctor. He started a mentoring program. I think you might be a perfect candidate. We have this sheet for you to fill out. If you fill it out, send it to Bob. Bob will call you and you can discuss the program. At the time, I'm selling property. I'm running a small team, 1996. I fill out the form. I send it back in. Proctor calls me. Freaked me out when he called me. I thought I was going to get like some underling in a cubicle, right? And I answer the phone on a Friday night. I said, hello, Wayne? Bob Proctor. And I was like, oh God, it's him. I understand you're interested in my mentoring program. Yes, Bob, I'm interested in your mentoring program. Well, what would you like to know about it? I said, Bob, let me just start with a very simple thing. You're a busy man. What's it cost? He said, Wayne, the mentoring program is $12,000. I said, Bob, you're a busy man. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. I'm out. He goes, but wait, Wayne, we have a payment plan. Now I'm a realtor. I get payments, right? I said, Bob, what's your payment plan? He said, it's $4,000 a month for the first 3 months of the program. I said, Bob, appreciate your time. I'm out. I don't have $4,000 to give you right now. He said, Wayne, you must trust that the money will be there when it needs to be. He said, do you not think your life would be any better if we talked to each other once a week? I said, Bob, I know my life would be better if we talked once a week. I just don't have $4,000 to give you. He goes, don't worry, Wayne, the money will be there. I'm like, geez. I had enough for the first month. I had no idea how I was going to pay for month number 2. But I did it. I did the program. My dad, who I totally respected, after I had written the first check, I told my dad about it. My dad goes, what? He goes, you're paying somebody $12,000 to teach you how to think? I'm like, yeah. He goes, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. Luckily, I'd already written Bob the check. So for every week, 12 o'clock, every Tuesday, for 52 weeks, my phone would ring. And Bob would say, "Hello, Wayne." I'd say, "Hello, Bob. What do you want, Wayne?" "Well, Bob, I want this." "Well, why don't you go do it, Wayne? Because it'll work. It always has. It always will." And I would give him the litany of reasons why I couldn't do it. I would give him all of my excuses. And we did this. We played this game for a few weeks. And finally, one day, Bob goes, "What do you want, Wayne?" And I go, "Bob, we've covered this. I want this and this and this." And he said, "What's holding you back, Wayne?" And I said, "I don't want to lose my money, Bob." I said, "I've done pretty good so far, right? I've racked up some money." And he goes, "Can I be really honest with you just for the next 30 seconds, Wayne?" I said, "Yeah, Bob, sure, of course." "You don't have that much money." He said, "On top of that, you're young." He said, "There are men older than you that have lost way more than you've racked up and built it all back again. What are you afraid of? Go." Greatest year of my life. The greatest year of my life. I say that in all sincerity. If you don't have somebody that you're checking off with, you are not tapping in, right? And do you have to pay somebody $12,000? No, maybe, right? But you got to have somebody to check off with, and not somebody that tries to turn you into what they think you should be. Somebody that embraces who you are. Okay? Somebody that embraces who you are. You got to know what you want, and more importantly, you got to know how do you want to get it. Because everything works. How are you going to do it? Right? How are you going to get there? Because you can get there. Now, if you're wired like I am, you could get there simply by doing it exactly the same way I did it. If you're not wired like I am, you might have to go a different route. Right? But there is a path, I promise you, for you to achieve anything that you want to achieve. You see, it's strictly between you and yourself. Nobody else is involved. But man, they try to get involved. You lay out, "Hey, I think I'm going to do this." People go, "Well, you can't do that." I'm like the king of you can't do that. When I decided I was going to give myself 12 months to either get in or get out of the business, I decided as long as I'm going to, my default setting is to quit, right? So I'm like, I'm going to shoot the moon. I'm just going to build this thing exactly like I wanted to. So I had 3 rules. Rule number 1, no weekends anymore. Rule number 2, no open houses, because I wasn't good at them. I didn't like them, didn't enjoy it. It violated rule number 1 anyway. And rule number 3 was nobody was going to call me at home again. Now, back then, you had two numbers on a real estate sign. Most of you are much younger than I am. But we used to have 2 numbers on a real estate sign. You had the office number and the home number. And off hours, people would just call you at your house. My wife hated realtors, because you guys would call my house and expect her to know about my listings. And it infuriated her. Why do they think I know about your business? The reality was she could have known. I never had more than 2 or 3. It would have been very simple for her to just have a little legal pad there with 3 addresses on them, bedrooms, baths, the seller's phone number. It wasn't like she had to go looking through a big book of listings. And I made a decision. I didn't want to work weekends. First thing I realized was if you don't want to work weekends, buyers are kind of a weekend gig. That means I'm going to have to get really good at listing property. I had no idea how to list property. But I took action. Because I gave myself 12 months. No, actually, my wife gave me 12 months. That was even better. That was that accountability thing, right? Which pieces of business do you enjoy? Go do that. Go do a lot of that. Right, Michael?
Correct.
You like development, right? Go do a lot of that. Only when one has mastered self can one begin to master anyone or anything else. One of my favorite quotes. If you really stop and think about that and digest that, what Gracian is saying is, once you got yourself all figured out, now you've earned the right to go try to tell other people what they should be doing. And until then, keep your mouth shut and work on yourself. And what do most people do in life? They run around telling everybody else what they should be doing. I have a lot of life theories over the years. One of them is that everyone's greatest quest in life is to be valid. And everyone's greatest fear in life is to be exposed. And they use the same theory for both. They run around and tell everybody else what they should be doing. Pretty forcefully sometimes. And as long as I tell you what you should be doing forcefully, you'll never question me about what I'm doing. I feel valid when I'm telling you what to do, and you can't expose me because you're afraid to ask me the question. 3 books I think you should read. Number 1 is The Alchemist. Anybody ever read The Alchemist? If you haven't read it, please go get it. If you have read it, please go read it again. It's about a little shepherd boy named Santiago on the quest for gold. I know, it doesn't sound like it makes any sense. It's a lot of what you need to know. The basic premise of the book is Santiago wants to find the gold. So he starts looking for the gold. And along the way, he runs into all these people who help him look for the gold. Because all Santiago did was make a decision. Santiago decided, I know what I want. And as soon as he took the action step toward it, everybody starts showing up. That's exactly how our lives work, guys. But until you make the action step, until you make the decision of what you want, there are people out there that can help you. But they don't know how to help you. Because you don't even know what you're trying to do. I have no idea how to help someone do something that they don't know what they're trying to do. I guess you just keep kind of doing what you're doing and maybe you'll get there. But if you can tell me what you want, if you can tell Carl what you want, trust me, there's models, there's plans, right? That you can get there. And honestly, until then, you won't get to the level. The hindsight really is 20/20. You ever sit around and think about your life and you think, gosh, if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have met that person, which led to that person, which led to this and that and the other. If I hadn't quit the region, the Mid-States RE/MAX region in 2014, I would not be in this room right now. I would not be in this room. Bigger than that, when I was regional director, if I had not struck up a friendship with Amanda Brown, who used to run the RE/MAX region when Jeff and Joe owned it, I would not be in this room. Your life truly will be the same tomorrow as it is today, other than the places you go, the people you meet, and the books that you read. Number 2 is the E-Myth. These 3 books should be like annual reading material for everyone, I think, if you're an entrepreneur. How many of you have ever read the E-Myth? Well, I think is Michael Gerber's just classic work on small business. Okay, y'all need to read it. It's awesome. You'll see yourself in it wherever you are. You'll see yourself in it. One year you'll see yourself in one chapter. The next year you'll be, oh, now I'm in this chapter. Because he lays it all out, the problem with small business. And the last book you probably never heard of is called Essentialism by a guy named Greg McKeown. The Disciplined Pursuit of Less, but better. The Disciplined Pursuit of Less, but better. McKeown talks about drowning in the shallow waters of triviality. That's basically the essence of the book. The book only resonates with people who are trying to get something done. Because one of the traps that he lays out is because you're talented. There's like what I now call the talent trap. Because you're talented, you can do anything, Michael. You know, we've talked about this. You can do anything. I mean, you really can at a very high level. The trap is sorting out what it is you really want to do. Now, if you're not talented and you just lay around all the time, this book will mean nothing to you because you're not having to sort through the options. So I have a very tight definition of talented people. Motivation, initiative, and desire. That's it. I don't care where you are currently in your life. I don't care how much money you're making. All I want to know is, do you have motivation? Do you have motivation? Do you have initiative? And do you have desire? Because if you bring those things to the table, you'll get there, given that you get into the right setting. No amount of training will ever introduce motivation, initiative, and desire into your life. You either have it or you don't. You either wake up in the morning and you're like, I'm getting after it. Or you're like, oh, they did that to me again. Right? Don't be a victim. It's crazy. I don't like being around victims. But just doing a lot of stuff doesn't really get you there either, does it? So Edison said, being busy does not always mean real work. The object of work is production accomplishment. Seeming to do is not doing. You can't overestimate the unimportance of practically everything you do. There's only a few things that really matter. I found this fascinating when I discovered this. The word priority came into the English language in the 1400s. The word priorities, it did not become plural until the 1900s. You can't have a bunch of priorities. You can only have the priority. The growth process. You have a life, right? We're all here. We all got a life. We're alive, we're breathing, all that good stuff. You either right now are really empowered where you are in your life, you're in your sweet spot, everything's working well, or you're really challenged. And you know something's got to change. Right? But you have a life today. Please understand one thing, you created it. Wherever you are, if you're on cloud 9, that's awesome and you should take full credit for it. And if things aren't going exactly the way you have envisioned in your mind, you should take full credit for it because it's nobody's fault but your own. So why do we create the lives that we create based on our expectations? Now that could be something that was loaded into you as a kid, right? And my dad, right? I mean, my dad, very, very, very talented guy. But he really made me stop and second guess this whole Proctor thing. Until in like June, started with Proctor at the very beginning of the year, and in June I'm a golfer, I won the Missouri Amateur, okay, state champion. And my dad came up to me and he goes, "Is this that Proctor stuff?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh," turns around and walks off. That's all he said. That was like my dad's attaboy, Wayne, way to go, right? What do you expect? What do you expect out of your life? Now that's driven by this, your thoughts. And all of this is driven by one massive thing, and that's input. And what I mean by inputs is, what are you studying? Are you studying? Right? Are you studying? Are you reading? Are you learning? How many books have you read this year? And I don't mean like John Grisham's new work, although it's pretty good. I'm about halfway through. I mean like books that will like help you. See, I don't know what books you should read either, unless you can tell me what you're trying to do. Or you can tell anybody that mentors you at some level, what are you trying to do? The walk and talk of talented people is they're always trying to do something. Right? Because if you don't input the proper things in your mind, society will not put them in there. Facebook is not empowering. Unless I'm like the total outlier. Does Facebook make you feel bad sometimes? Like people are doing this really cool stuff and here I am sitting in my office and everybody else is like on a trip or, in the Azores. And I'm like, oh, I'm not doing that quite yet, right? I mean, nobody goes on Facebook and goes, well, some people do, and then we just all bash them. But it's like, my life sucks, right? Input the proper stuff. Study. The common theme that I've learned through the years with all the mentors I've had, and I've been really lucky, I've been hanging out with some cool people, they're all voracious readers. Or at least they're voracious listeners, right? I've kind of evolved now. I've become more of a listener than an actual book reader. So Audible, right? I mean, Audible accounts. For $14.95 a month, you can get a book a month. They just hit your credit card and you get credits, and then you buy books. And then you listen to them. Right? And it's like a life hack. Here's my life hack for Audible. Alone in your car, and I know you all are alone, I know you're in your car a lot, you can listen to a book at double speed and you will actually understand everything they're saying as long as you're alone. Really cool people read a lot. I was telling Carl the story. I was in Salt Lake City 2 weeks ago. I go to the hotel bar and I sit down. And I sit down next to this older gentleman, sitting down to have dinner. I'm not just going to have drinks. And this older gentleman looks at me and he goes, if you're going to sit next to me, you better be nice. I'm like, well, I'll try to be nice. And he goes, so, are you here for business or pleasure? I said, well, I'm here for business. He goes, well, what do you do? I'm like, well, I have a consulting company. And he goes, well, you must be pretty smart. No, sir, I don't know that I'm smart at all. I just have a consulting company. And he goes, people pay you. I'm like, yeah? Well, then you must be smart. They're paying you for your thoughts. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, I guess. I go, because now it's uncomfortable, right? So my sales part of me kicks in. I now know to control the conversation, I got to start asking the questions. And I go, so I'm Wayne Fredrick. Who are you? What's your name? He said, Myron Wolf. Have you heard of Myron Wolf? You have? Wow. Okay, so I hadn't. And I said, Myron, what do you do or what did you do? Oh, just a lot of different things. And he looks at me and he goes, you like to read? And right then I knew, I was like, okay, now you don't want me asking you questions. You do not want me controlling this conversation. I go, yes, Myron, I love to read. He goes, have you ever read Beyond the Hockey Stick? I'm like, no. And he goes, oh, you should read that. It's a really good business book. You're a consultant. I think it would help you. I go, Myron, what do you do? I'm really into health now. Grass-fed beef. That's kind of my latest thing. I'm into grass-fed beef. I got a little ranch in the Black Hills of South Dakota, and I'm going, I said, a little ranch, Myron. Well, yeah. I said, how many acres? He goes, well, 40,000. I go, Myron, what did you do? Well, let's just say I was a money guy. And then he looks at me at one point and he goes, I've only owned one stock in my life. And he said, oh, really, Myron? Which one? He goes, well, Berkshire Hathaway. He said, I started buying, and you all know what Berkshire Hathaway is, right? Do you know what Berkshire Hathaway's stock price is? Last time I looked, it was $330,000 a share. It's never split. He said, actually, I started buying Berkshire Hathaway in the 70s. I bought another big block of it in the 80s, some more in the 90s. Then we sold the company a couple of years ago, and I bought another chunk. Come to find out, this guy is a multi-millionaire. Awesome individual. One of those we talked for 2 hours. I think I met Myron that day so I could tell you guys this story. He was the most humble. He leads a bunch of Bible studies. Really, really focused, really cool man. He's a 20%er. Talk about 20%ers in a while. Thought to ponder. We're in the middle of a technological revolution, right? We got all the phones. We got all the stuff. We got computers and all this, right? This bothers me personally. Average income per agent has not gone up. The average number of transactions y'all are doing has not gone up as an industry. And the average number of hours you're working has not gone down. I think that's a shame. So maybe it's not all about technology. Maybe it's about this. John Naisbitt wrote this a long time ago in Megatrends. In our minds, at least, technology is always on the verge of liberating us from personal discipline and responsibility. Only it never does, it never will. The more high-tech around us, the more the need for human touch. Real estate is still a nose-to-nose, chin-to-chin, face-to-face, voice-to-voice business. Business is actually still a nose-to-nose, chin-to-chin, face-to-face, voice-to-voice thing. And that is to your incredible advantage. Given that, you master nose-to-nose, chin-to-chin, voice-to-voice, face-to-face conversation. Nothing's going to fix it. Nothing's going to replace it. The biggest investment people have, I could go all down that path, right? You have to have the ability to have fabulous conversations with people on a regular basis. Are you in business or just busyness? A lot of people, we're so busy. Realtors, we're so busy. And I'm going to lay this out for you right now. I do not think it is noble to work 24/7 as a realtor. I don't think it's cool. I don't think it's sexy. I think it means that you're doing a lot of crap you don't need to be doing. And if you don't believe me, go ask your spouse, go ask your kids. I think you should be exactly where you are, and you should eliminate everything else. Because seriously, you cannot underestimate the unimportance of virtually everything that happens in a day as a realtor. It just doesn't matter. I was talking to a guy not too long ago. I said, how's your business? He said, oh, man. He goes, oh, well, you know how being a realtor is. He goes, I had 10 closings last month. So I had to take the month and, make sure they closed. And of course, now I'm out trying to get new business again. I said, Brian, let's think back on those 10 transactions that closed last month. He goes, yeah. And I said, how many of those wouldn't have closed except for you being in there making it happen? And he goes, oh, well, Wayne, when you put it that way. No, they were all pretty clean deals. I said, then let's just call it what it is. You had money coming in. You wanted to take a break. I get it. That's cool. What I want to try to get you to do is understand that you can't make a deal close as a realtor. You can't. They're either going to close or they're not. People are either going to buy or they're not. Sellers are either going to sell or they're not. You're not reattaching limbs here, and nobody's dying on the table. What we do is very simple. It's not easy, but dang it, it's simple. How many things did you do this week, this month, last month, whenever, that moved your business forward, given that you want to move your business forward? And I'm assuming by you being here, at some level, you want your business to move forward. And your business moving forward does not always mean money. Okay? It doesn't always mean money. How much time did you spend doing things that will move your business forward? How many hours did you work? Like really work, right? Like really doing stuff that mattered as opposed to kind of hanging out. If I look at realtors' calendars, we have very reactive calendars. We leave big blocks of time open in case somebody calls so that we can be at the ready. I want you to have a very proactive calendar. I want every time that somebody calls you for you to go, well, is this really better than what I had planned? Because that will force you into trying to qualify people better. Right? Don't have FOMO. Don't have the fear of missing out. How many hours you spending per week on your career or your craft? How many hours you working? How many people working 40 hours a week as a realtor? Raise your hands.
40 or more?
At least 40 hours a week as a realtor. Raise your hand. So we got a lot of people not working 40 apparently.
More.
Right? Huh?
More than 40.
Well, okay, let's try this again. Raise your hand if you're doing 40 hours plus a week as a realtor. Okay. Still some people not doing that. Congratulations. Given that you're making the amount of money you want to make and you're not working 40. All right, cool. Wow, there's some people in the room I know working 80, 90 hours a week. I don't get it. I just don't get it. What's your biggest challenge in achieving your goals? Number one, do you even have a goal? It's November the what? What's today, 7th, 8th? It's November the 8th. This is goal setting season as a realtor. It's probably business planning season in general. You had a goal for 2018. Did you hit it? Most people don't. And the reason they don't is they set an annual goal. An annual goal setting is just so incredibly flawed, it's awful. Okay? Because the problem with an annual goal is you only have one time, and that's on December the 31st, to where you have to say, I hit it or I didn't. Because even now, on November the 8th, you still have time. But kind of this time of year we go, well, I got time, but I'm not hitting my goal. And when was that die cast? Probably back in February or March. But I didn't feel it then. I didn't have to crush it then because I had time on my side, right? And I want you to break things down. What's your biggest challenge in achieving your goals? It's not that, it's other people. It's people telling you can't do it. I decided I had 3 rules. I walked into the office, I'm 27 years old, and I told one of the seasoned veterans. He goes, what do you think of this RE/MAX thing? I said, oh man, I'm really excited. I said, I'm going to try to make that 100% club thing because that was the biggest club Remax had back then. And I said, I got 3 rules. No weekends, no open houses, nobody calls me at home. He goes, well, you can't do that. I said, why not? He goes, because the customer expects it. I said, then I'll quit. Because I was quitting anyway. And for 14 years of active sales, other than presenting a contract on a weekend, when I couldn't stall it off till Monday, which I found out in the dialogue you could stall stuff off till Monday, I didn't do it. What are the rules you have for your life? Be very careful who you share your goals with, because most people will shred them. And they don't do it intentionally. They just feel like that's, you need people around you that empower you. You can do anything you want to do. If you don't prioritize your life, somebody else will. What are your big go-to things that you have to do every day to achieve whatever it is you're trying to achieve? Now, if you're talented, you know what you're trying to achieve, right? You have something you're trying to do. What has to get into place for you to be able to get there? Here's the dilemma. We get it intellectually, one of the dilemmas, but we don't get it behaviorally. We get a lot of things in life intellectually, right? We know we should drink lots of water, we shouldn't eat too many sweets, we should stay away from tobacco, we should exercise. We get that. I mean, yeah, I get it. But then life happens and we don't get it done. So it's no longer about information. It's about knowledge. How do you gain knowledge? You gain knowledge by implementation. You get knowledge by life hacks, right? There's a lot of really smart people that are homeless. Their college degree, they just didn't implement anything they knew for some reason. And we got to get in there and figure out why that is. So you have a new idea. I would challenge you every time you have a new idea. Here's why people can shred your goal really quickly. Because it's simply a goal. And there's not a model and a game plan behind it. So when you have a new idea, I want you to slow down. Okay? I want you to slow down, and I want you to moving forward in 2019, I want you to do this. Think about it. Think. Spend time thinking. A little bit of time every day. I'll talk about the power of 15 and the rule of 2 here in a while. Spend a little bit of time every day just thinking about your business by yourself, nobody else around. Get a notebook and a pen. And just money's not the issue, time's not the issue. Just write down your thoughts. Write them down. And then set them aside. Time's your friend. You don't have to do it right now. Right? Then set it aside. Go back and do the things you're already doing. Then model it out. Pull your notebook back out a week, 2 weeks later, a month later, whatever, and go, that was a good idea. Let me model that out and see what it looks like. What am I going to need to know? Who do I need to be affiliated with to do this? What's the monetary part of this, right? Really model it out. And then rethink it again, and then either implement it or forget it. Things really do fly or die on paper. But we don't model things out to the level that we should. Now, when you get in a development deal, you model things out, right? You make sure the math works. But you're a realtor, you don't model things out. You just see and go. And this is why, and I don't have a table in the back of the room, right, where I'm going to sell you books and tapes and all that stuff. This is why it's so easy to sell you guys this stuff, though. Because you just react and go, I feel so good now. I'm empowered. Let me go buy this. I'll do that. Yes, no, you won't. Just stop. Stop buying all the stuff in the back of the room. That's why I don't sell stuff in the back of the room. Okay? Implement it or forget it. And when I say forget it, I mean forget it. Move on. But the key is you got to implement those things that make sense. To use this approach, you got to have more ideas than you could ever implement. You got to be thinking. What leads to thinking? Study. Do you study? Do you read? Are you how many people would define themselves as a voracious reader? Please start. I'm serious. Please start. We are becoming a society of reaction, right? We're reacting to what people tell us versus studying for ourselves, right? And my analogy for that is, it's probably a bad analogy, but I'm going to use it anyway. So it's kind of like if you went to church and you never really read the Bible or whatever your chosen booklet is, right? And you have to trust that whatever the person at the pulpit is telling you is what's in there because you haven't read it yourself. And sometimes it's not what's actually in there, right? Study. Please study. It's the common theme of everyone that you aspire to be like. They all study all the time. They don't get freaked out. They don't react to things. They know that things just kind of have their own time and they just stay focused on what they're trying to do and things they can control. Gerber says this in the E-Myth and drives the point home 1,000 different ways. A business is a vehicle to enrich your life, not one that drains the life out of you. More time is not the answer. I was talking to a couple of guys the other day. I'm like, man, how many hours a week you working? Or how many hours a day are you working? 12 to 14. Okay. Are you making the amount of money you want to make? No. About half. I said, okay, so you're willing to put the time in, but you're not making the money. You're about halfway to the monetary gain. Can we acknowledge that you can't use time as your lever anymore? You're already maxed out on time. And believe it or not, he fought me on it. Well, no, I could probably work a couple more. I'm like, stop. You got to make sure that in the 12 to 14 hours or maybe 8 to 10, you're dealing with people that are going to do something. You're hanging on to people that aren't going to do anything. Well, I just can't tell who's going to do something. Scripts and dialogues. Take people through a process. I tell people all the time, selling real estate is a battle of processes. Either you get the client into your process or you end up in the middle of theirs. Mm-hmm. I'm from the Midwest. If I was a Baptist minister, I'd ask for an amen on that one, right? And sometimes you get in the middle of their process and what do you discover? You don't like their process. Hey, it was their process in the beginning. But because you didn't have one, you got in the middle of theirs. These are the people that they call you and you look at the phone and go, oh God, it's them. And I don't want to answer this right now. Well, they were that way the day you met them. And they don't change. It's just, that's the way they are. And it's okay. You just don't want to be around them. But in the absence of you enhancing skills, disciplines, habits, and models, time is your only answer. It's your only lever. And that's sad. That's why people look forward to retirement so much, which I think is a dirty word. I hate the word retirement. Probably because I was raised by my father. He never retired. If he hadn't gotten sick, he'd still be riding around on his tractor grading parking lots. He was sweeping off a parking lot one day in the heat, like 90 some odd degrees. One of his friends was there, and this old lady walks up to his friend, and she goes, and it was a big shopping center that he owned, and she goes, oh, I feel so sorry for that old man out there sweeping the parking lot. And his buddy looked at her and he goes, hey lady, don't feel sorry for him. He owns the parking lot. He just likes this stuff. Right? Every day, that was his deal. He loved what he did. I think it's out there for all of us. I love what I do. I just wake up every day and I'm like, whoo, this is still fun. Okay. The truth is there's no correlation between the hours work and the amount of money you make. I know. We're like hardwired as realtors to think that there's a correlation between the number of hours we work and the amount of money that we make. And it's just not true. It's not true. It's not true. But you're told from the very beginning of this deal, it's 24/7, right? If you're working that many hours, you're not that good at this. I'm sorry, you're not that good at this. If you want your time back, get really good. Deal with the people that are going to do something, right? That's a rule. It's a rule of the game. It's like playing baseball. Baseball would be a lot easier if when you got a hit, you just went straight to third. But the rule says you got to go to first, right? And if you can't figure out how to get to first, you'll never get to third and you'll never get home. So in a realtor perspective, with a baseball weird analogy I'm about to lay on you, what's first base for you guys? Scripts and dialogues. It's script and dialogue training. And if you've been in this business for 5 years or less, nobody's ever probably talked to you about scripts and dialogues and how important it is. And that's first base. Because that's how you convert leads. And converting leads is not sexy. Generating leads is sexy. By the way, generating leads is easy. You throw enough money at that sucker, you'll get leads. The question is, can you convert them? And I'm sorry, that's still nose to nose, chin to chin, voice to voice, face to face. You want your time back? Master dialogue. Learn how to have a great conversation. Have it be so natural for you when you're talking to a Myron Wolf and you realize he's controlling the conversation, it bothers you. And you politely learn how to get back in control. And then it kind of freaks Myron out, right? Here's the only difference in everybody in this room. And I use 10 million, it could be 20 million, 40 million, whatever. Here is the only difference, everybody in the room. We are all realtors. I'm still a realtor. I'm dues paying member, have my broker's license, all that stuff. New agent to $3 million in production. Okay? The exact same person shows up in that person's life as the $10 million plus agent. They're the same people. They're people. So these little families show up in your lives. But the new agent to $3 million, they're afraid to ask the big dripping questions that are in the room. I mean, they're right there. Are you going to do something? And so they start working with people. And they work with them, 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 and all of a sudden one day, oh yeah, sorry. We decided we're not going to do anything. Oh yeah, sorry. We walked in at open house the other day, and we just went ahead and bought it. That's their process. What does a $10 million plus agent do? Same people. They got the same process. You do the right stuff in the beginning and boom, you ain't going to do anything. See ya. Have a nice day. I don't believe, I'm an outlier. I'm an outlier in life. I don't believe in incubation periods with all these people. I don't believe in toting around these giant databases of people that we're going to touch and 3 years from now they're going to deal with us. No, they're not. This is the whole online thing that bugs me. You know, today's consumer, they're different. No, they're not. People that are online today are the same people driven by the same motivations as the people that were walking through Walmart picking up a Homes magazine 15 years ago because their wife was shopping and they were bored. And the only difference is now we can see them and we know they're there. You could have done the same thing standing next to a Homes magazine rack 15 years ago. Somebody picks one up and you go, hey, you want to buy a house? Nah, really, I'm just kind of bored. My wife's shopping. Oh, no, really, let me get you pre-qualified. Let me get your email address. Let me start dripping on you because, stop it. Because you're missing out on great people in the middle. This is a basic skill set. You want to achieve your goals in 2019 that maybe you didn't hit in 2018, work on your dialogue. Great salespeople have great dialogue. I get to go to dinner with 3 really cool people tonight who all have great dialogue, right? And we will have fun because you're coming, even though you're saying, I don't know. He's good, at least coming, right? The difference is skills, disciplines, systems, scripts, and dialogues. It's all about scripts, folks. I hate to tell you, and I know we hate scripts, right? We just hate it. Oh, I don't like scripts. Life is scripted. You walk into a store, salesperson comes up and says, can I help you? What do we all say? No, I'm just looking. I'm just looking. And they turn around and walk away. Even if you were really looking for something, your default setting is, I'm just looking. You answer the phone differently every time depending on who it is. If my phone would ring and I went over and it was my youngest daughter, Anna. She's 19 years old. What's up? That's how I answer the phone with Anna. Don't know why, just kind of this thing we have, right? She calls me dude. Dude, what are you doing? Right? If I look down and it's my mother, Hello, mother. Right? Same guy, different dialogue, different script. Everything in your life is scripted. The question is, how good are your scripts? The question is, are you just chattering back and forth in an open house? Or are you walking people down a trail to try to figure out if they're good or not? And are you bringing value to the table for them? It's all about value, guys. It's all about value. It's not about money. It's all about value. Every agent faces one of two issues. Everybody in this room's got one of two issues. How many of you feel like you have a lead generation issue? Okay? So a lead generation issue looks like this. I'm really good when I get people. I just need more people. We'll talk about how you get there in a second. If you don't have that issue, you got a lead conversion issue. It is the biggest issue on teams. Let me say that again. It is the biggest issue on teams is lead conversion. You got to be good at converting leads. Until you're good at converting leads, don't spend any money to get more leads. You won't convert them anyway. Lead conversion is the biggest issue that we face. Always has been, always will be. If you don't have very many leads, you better not miss a good one. And if you have tons of leads, you better sort through the ones that aren't any good so you don't miss a good one. Either way, it goes back to conversion. And once again, it's not sexy. It takes practice. It takes role playing. How many people like to role play? Raise your hands. Come on, Michael. I know you do, right? I do. Some of us do. Everybody else is like, oh, no, I don't want to role play. Well, look, you're role playing with real live people. And it's costing you money. I listen to Zillow calls. I know how bad they are. Zillow leads are better than y'all think they are. The problem with the Zillow leads, the agent. The average Zillow customer, according to Chop told me this stat, the average Zillow customer will talk to 26 different agents on 74 different pieces of property. And the default setting, Chopper said this to me one day, Chopper Russo, you all know Chopper? Yeah, he'll be the other one at dinner tonight. Chop goes, that just means they're disloyal, Wayne. I'm like, no, Chopper. What that means is they had to talk to 25 crappy agents who couldn't carry on a conversation before they found one good one. That's what I think's going on. I still think I'm right. I know I'm right. It's all about dialogue. The world of silver bullets, no matter how many new lead generation sources there are, and there will always be more, it's still nose to nose, chin to chin, voice to voice. Very little attention is given to lead conversion, even though it's quite simple. You ready? Here's all you need to know to convert leads. Be good and be nice. That's it. You want to have a massive past client program. Be good, be nice, and stay in contact with people. But at the first level, just be good and be nice. Because if you go out and you call a bunch of realtors, you discover really quickly they're not any good. And a lot of them aren't very nice. It's like, oh, like you're wasting my time here. Really? The dilemma, hustle or spend. I hate to be that cold about it, but hey, that's it. Hustle or spend. You want to build a business? Hustle or spend. There is no other answer. And if you're not wired to hustle, you better have some money. And if you're not wired to hustle and you don't have any money, probably, honestly, nobody in this room, but for the industry, wrong career. See, this used to be like a three-legged stool, right? I'll show you the kind of the graph of it here in a minute. Either you have a bunch of people that you know that will refer you business. That's awesome. You don't have a lot of people that will refer you business as a new agent, so you're going to have to go talk to people that you do not know. Or you're going to have to spend money to get people that you do not know to call you. And I had, over the years, being a broker, I would interview people, and that was kind of where I was headed in this. It was a three-legged stool. Do you know a lot of people? And I had a guy one day, and he goes, nah, I don't really know anybody. And I said, okay, well, take this test. I gave him a DISC test. I don't know how many of you have taken DISC tests before. If you haven't, you should. You can go on TonyRobbins.com, take it for free. Okay? You should understand your behavior style because you're not going to change it. Okay? The guy that developed the DISC is a guy by the name of Marston. He also developed the lie detector test. And he created Wonder Woman, which is a whole other seminar. But he was kind of a quirky guy. But he figured out that true success came. True success. Right? We talked about this. Vicki and I talked about this a while ago. True success came when you married your behavior style with your job. And you might have a series of jobs in your life that you didn't like, and it was all because they weren't in harmony with your behavior style. Now, you could move your behavior style up until you were in your early 30s, but then it was game over. That was who you were. For most of us in this room, this is a second career. If we're not in our early 30s, we're probably close to our early 30s by the time we become a realtor. You ain't changing, folks. We got to marry the business model with who you are. I did this informal study on this, and I found resoundingly it was true. Hustle or spend, what are you going to do? So we had a three-legged stool before. Now we have a chair. Because now in this industry, if you don't know anybody, you won't go talk to people that you don't know, and you don't have any money to get people that you don't know to call you, what do we tell you to do? Oh, join a team. That'll fix it. No, it won't. Not unless you know scripts and dialogue. Every decision in life comes from one of two places. Either anxiety or abundance. The decisions that you make in life either come from an abundance mentality, meaning I know it'll work. It's also referred to as being efficacious. It's a concept called self-efficacy, where you believe that you can make desired outcomes happen. Golfers talk a lot about having self-efficacy. I know I can pull this shot off, so I'm confident, so I will. Or everything you do is driven by anxiety. Oh, I don't know if it'll work. So we kind of half-step it. We kind of put our toe in because we didn't model it out. When you model out the real estate industry, you're like, wow, this is crazy. Even with horrible conversion rates, this is the greatest business ever. Now, I was talking to a client the other day. We were talking about expireds. I changed my life calling expired listings, guys. That's how I did it. That's how I got in, right? I had 3 geographic farms, and I called expireds. I woke up in the morning, and I was like, crap, I got 12 months to figure this out. My wife wants me to quit. She's not going to let me keep doing this and mailing it in. I love the freedom of being a realtor. I love going and playing in golf tournaments when I want to go play in them. I still do. But I'm like, I got to figure out how to list houses. I got nobody calling me that has houses to list. I'm going to have to go talk to these people that maybe they have houses to list. And I tried it all. I tried door knocking. I wasn't good at it. I tried for sale by owners. It took too long for me. And then I found expireds. Never carried more than 2 or 3 listings at a time. My goal was very simple. Get 6 listings a month. 6 listings and 6 sales a month. That was my whole deal. Figured if I got 6 listings a month, I'd get 6 sales a month over time. Every day was devoted to can I get 6 listings this month? I got to the office every morning, 7:30, I got on the phones. There was not a federal law back then that said you could not call people before 8 o'clock like there is now. And I would call people and I would say, hi, this is Wayne Fredrick with RE/MAX. I noticed your home showed up as expired this morning and I was wondering, are you going to be relisting with the same agent or possibly interviewing any new agents? Over time and consistency, you learn there are 6 possible things they can say when you ask that. I had an answer for all 6. 5 of them were a pathway into a deeper conversation. Only 1 of them was a dead end, which is I've already relisted. Okay, thank you very much. Have a nice day. The other 5, man, I got you. I'm setting an appointment. I still do it. If you guys had expireds, I'd call them right now if you want me to. Because the dialogue works. I got that dialogue down. And all of a sudden I started listing houses. And all of a sudden my business started taking off. And all of a sudden, the number 1 agent in town who happened to be in my office came in one day and said, can I talk to you for a second? And I said, yes. She said, do you get a lot of people that call you that are disgruntled with their realtor? I didn't even know that happened. Some of you in the room know that happens, right? They call you before the thing's even expired because you're a name realtor. I didn't know that. That had never happened to me. I go, no. I've never had that phone call. But I got 6 listings last month from people that needed a new realtor. Her name was Letty Van Cleek. And I said, Letty, here's the deal. I get here every morning at 7. I'm on the phones by 7:30. I set my appointments. I drop my packets off. I go back and meet with them that afternoon. If you start doing this, I'm dead. You've got the name, you've got the reputation, you've got the marketing power. I got to go find a new sandbox. I got to find something I can dominate, right? We'll talk about law category here in a minute. And she goes, oh, no, don't worry. I'm not going to do it. I did that. I already done it. I work by referral now. She goes, I just wanted to know what you were doing. It's really cool. I'm very proud of you. I chose to hustle. I couldn't spend. I had no money. But you got to make that decision, right? At some point, you got to make that decision, because I will tell you this. When I first got in real estate, I thought this was just over time I'd start doing business. I did $1 million my first 6 months. I did $2 million my first full year. And I'm like, well, this is like just a progression. Third year, I'll probably do 4. Then I'll do 8. This is awesome. What a great deal. And then I did 1 again. Made 30 grand again. I'm like, this is bad. And I met a guy named Cliff Krapenhoft. Cliff was 80 years old, still out there kind of grinding out the business, never did more than like $1.5 million. And I thought, well, this must not be, and I don't mean $1.5 million in money, I mean $1.5 million in sales. I said, this must not be a geometric progression. This must be about, you got to get out there and get after it. The question is, do y'all want to get after it? I mean, like really get after it. And if you're thinking, well, I can't work anymore, you don't have to. You don't have to work more. You just got to figure out your gig. As a result, every business has 1 or 2 growth strategies, sporadic or strategic. And you want to have just a horrible, stressed out realtor life? Be anxious and sporadic. Because it doesn't work, right? True success comes from strategic abundance. Are you strategic in your thinking? Are you strategic in your planning? You will lead a life of abundance if you are. There's only 2 nets that matter in life to me, net income and net time. Again, I don't think it's noble to work 24/7. I don't. If you're working 24/7, you just don't have the right people around you. Sorry, that's just reality. They're not picking the ball up and running with it. You got to have those people. This man is one of the most leveraged individuals I've ever met in my life. No, you really are. I say it all the time. He's like, oh, no. No, you really are. He has massively talented people around him. The truth is, your success will greatly depend on your dialogue, confidence, and passion. And what I mean by that is this: internalized dialogue. You can't stop this stuff from coming out of your mouth. It just flows. When you have that, you'll have confidence. When you have confidence, you'll have a passion. When you have passion, you'll have results, and they'll be good. Ultimately, you'll create habits from that. And then when you master those habits, then you can just go do anything you want to. But it all starts right here, first base, internalized dialogue. That's the key to this. And it's something that nobody talks about anymore because it's not sexy and it doesn't sell a lot of books and tapes in the back of the room. You will 1999 yourself to death in this business. How many emails do you get a week that say, we've got it figured out. You no longer have to call people. You don't have to talk to people. We'll do it all for you. Understand that value is in the eye of the recipient. Now, here's the deal. I'm attempting to bring great value to you today. But the reality is, you guys will decide whether it was or wasn't. Value is in the eye of the recipient, not in the eye of the presenter. 3 business growth issues that I think everybody battles. Number 1, you have little or no value. You're not that good at this. Nobody in this room, but the industry in and of itself, really, agents really aren't that good as an industry. And that's the brush that you get painted with. So you have to be able to deflect that a bit immediately at first contact. And how do you do that? Scripts and dialogue. I listen to a lot of Zillow calls. You wouldn't believe how they're all the same. And then every once in a while you catch one that's like, wow, this is how it should be. And it's always a great call. The agent team has value, but it's not systematically promoted. You're better than people even know you are. Because you're not doing the marketing to get out there with specific value propositions, right? These are the things you need to work on moving forward. What makes you better than the other person. I changed my life in expireds. Let me tell you about expireds. They interview people. So I had to design something that I could compete against other people, like the top people. They were always interviewing the top people. So I had to learn how to present. I had to learn how to bring value that resonated with sellers. If you've never competed much, you don't know what I'm talking about because your buddies are still calling you. But if you want to scale, you're going to have to do this. Agent team has not mastered the skill of connecting the dots for the consumer. You're doing great things, but the consumers don't understand how that matters to them. And the key to working with people, working with the public in our industry, is it can't be about you anymore. It has to be about them. This is a very emotional time for buyers and sellers. Sellers start the process incredibly emotionally. This is their home. Buyers start the process very pragmatically. It's a bunch of houses in a geographic area with the physical features that I want. Sellers become pragmatic over time when they get tired of the process. Buyers become emotional when they actually put pen to paper and write a contract. This is why when you have a closing of a property that's sold really quickly for someone's personal residence, it's always a great closing. Because everybody's operating from emotions. This is when the seller's like, oh, I saw that your kids were playing on the swing set. We're just going to leave it for you. You get a pragmatic person in a closing, it might get ugly. You get two pragmatic people, it'll be ugly. Right? It'll be a battle. It's really not about money, it's about value. Price is only an issue in the absence of value. If this was really all about money, we'd all be driving Yugos and living in trailers. It's not about that. It's about perception of value. You guys are realtors. You guys have some really nice cars. Right? It's about the perception of your perception of the value of that automobile or of that home. And that's emotional. You go through 3 phases of business. Again, I'm going to tell you to read the E-Myth because every business is in 3 phases. Phase number 1 is infancy. That's you doing it. And it's fun. It's a blast. I love real estate. I love what I do. Then in the middle is adolescence. Now it's not so fun anymore, right? And the story that he lays out in the email is about a gal with a pie shop, and she started the pie shop because she just loved baking, and by the adolescent phase, she hates pies. She hates everything about it, right? In the adolescent phase of a business, this is where it gets really tough. This is referenced also in The Alchemist. That by the simple fact that you start something, people will come to you, and it'll be really easy in the beginning, and then it gets really stinking hard. And we're going to find out how much you really want to do it, right? And then maturity. You get to the mature side of things. That's where it just flows. That's where the other people that you brought in during the adolescent phase, they take the ball and run with it. That frees you up to go do something else. You cannot live in an adolescent phase of a business. It's exhausting. And if you don't have the mindset to get from infancy to maturity, you can't live in the middle. I talk to brokers about this. I call it broker death valley. Death valley for a real estate broker is somewhere between 13 and 20 real estate agents in their office. They have enough people in their office that they have management responsibilities with those people, but they don't have enough people in their office that they can take themselves out of sales. And they lose their life in the middle. They're in adolescence. And you got to get to the mature side. And the same thing happens in your business. You've got to get to a mature business. And you have to focus on it, and you have to figure out, how am I going to get there? What's my pathway? The big question is, where are you in your business? Are you brand new? Right? Why'd you get into real estate? I love houses, and I love people, and I love looking at houses. This industry will cure you of that in about 6 months. You will discover that you hate people, and houses really aren't that big a deal anymore. Right? Where do you want to be? In our minds, we all want a mature business, right? Right? Hopefully, right? So what's the plan? You got to have some kind of plan. I'm going to lay out a really simple economic model, try to break it down for you pretty quickly, and then if you choose to come to Carl, what is it, next Friday? This Friday. Next Friday. Maybe you can put some legs on it for you, right? It's just a really simple economic model, but I think I'll show you this is not 24/7. So Robert McCain said success or failure is often determined on the drawing board. When I was a kid, my dad would lay on the couch at night with a legal pad. And he'd be writing. I'm like, Dad, what are you doing? I'm like 8 or 9 years old. Figuring. What are you figuring? He goes, I'm figuring out. He said, I saw a piece of land today. And I'm just trying to figure out if I put a warehouse on that piece of land, how much I can rent it for and how long it'll take me to pay it back off. Well, he was modeling it out. He didn't call it that. He just called it figuring. He figured a lot. My dad was a big figurer, big mathematics guy, right? I kind of got that ilk about me. Things will fly or die on paper. Always have, always will. So that's the first piece. You got to model it out. And then here's the bigger piece, and it comes from Star Wars. Yoda. Do or do not. There is no try. Once you've modeled things out and you say, this is my goal for 2019, either do it or don't. Because you can. You just got to get the right things in place, right? You got to have the right people to check off with on a regular basis. So here's a sample economic model for a real estate agent. And I put up their 65-35 target, okay? I think that your expenses should never be more than 35% of your gross revenues. You should be netting 65%, okay? Now, without getting into all these tax calculations, let's acknowledge you're small business people. You tend to run things against your business that really weren't business expenses. You drive a car anyway, right? And you can write it off. I'm just talking pure dollar for dollar expenses in the pursuit of your business. A 65-35 model I like. So let's just say that you wanted to net $140,000 in 2019. What would that have to look like, right? Well, you're going to spend, in this model, $28,900 in the pursuit of netting $140,000. Now, one of the challenges in our industry, we do not give you a plaque for net income, do we? We give you a plaque for gross revenues. Stop chasing plaques. I did that. Okay? It's not about the plaque. Can't eat that plaque. And this is, I made these numbers up, but they'll be pretty accurate, right? You're going to spend $10,000 a year in marketing. That could be in any source. But you need to figure out where you're going to spend the money, and you need to spend it. Okay? You're in business. Might have to buy a new computer this year, $200 a month for my phone, $2,000 for membership and dues, board dues, whatever. Insurance, I don't have any staff. I'm an individual agent, so I don't have staff salaries. I don't have to plug that in. I'm not paying any rent. I'm working out of my house, let's say. I'm going to spend $3,000 a year on education and travel, because you do need to keep learning, right? $1,500 for supplies, $500 accounting and legal, and $4,000 for my car. I'm going to spend $28,900. I'm going to pay my broker $31,000. I need to make $200,000. If I make $200,000, I pay $31,000 to the house. That's about an 85-15-ish overall split if you were doing the split thing, right? Here's my expenses. I'm going to net $140,000. Once you decide, so you start at the bottom, how much do you want to net? And then you add things back in and you get to what the gross revenue has to be for you to net that amount of money. Does that make sense? First time I ever laid this out to realtors, they're like, net? Seriously, is this 10 years ago? Well, longer than that, 15 years ago. I'm like, how much do you want to net? And they're like, what do you mean? How much do you want? I'll get you a plaque. I'll get you a plaque. It's fine. And sidebar for a story. I always tell stories. I was the number 5 agent in the Mid-States region back in 93 or 4. I'm gunning. I'm running. I'm not really netting any money. I'm churning through a lot of money like a lot of people do in this business. And we always had a big awards deal. I know you guys have the big Remax deal is the Borgata, right, or was. I don't know if it's still there or not, but so we had a deal at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Kansas City. That was where we did it, and it was a nighttime event, and it was tuxes, and it was bands, and it was really cool. Well, over time, when you became a hitter, Well, you didn't just drive up the day of the event, because the real shooters, they went in the day before so you could shop. I'm like, well, I got to be a player, man, so I go in the day before, right? Oh, and you couldn't rent a tux if you were a player. You had to own a tux. So I bought a tux. My wife bought a new dress every year, new cocktail dress. Those are expensive. You couldn't stay just at the Ritz-Carlton, because everybody would talk about you if you weren't at the Ritz. And you couldn't just stay at the Ritz. You had to stay on the concierge floor of the Ritz, because that's what we did. Right? So I did all that. And I did all that to walk across a stage, get a plaque, and have my picture taken with Dennis Curtin, the original franchisee of Remax, the man that I worked for 6.5 years later. And then I went and sat back down. And I looked at my plaque. Now, I didn't have any money. I just spent $2,500 I didn't have right then to get a plaque. And I looked at the plaque, and it was a piece of blue floor tile. It was an 8x8 piece of blue floor tile, literally, because Dennis always watched the dollars, in a wooden frame that like you could have made in a high school shop class, with gold stick-on letters and numbers. And I'm like, I just spent $2,500 I don't have to get this god-awful trophy. I call it my blue tile epiphany story. And I'm like, this is just sick. Because I wasn't focusing here either. Knapp wasn't focusing there, right? And the mantra is, eventually the net profits will come. No, they won't. Because you get so wrapped up in all that, right? Okay, enough. How am I going to get to 200? How many of you, for a lot of you in the room, you're already doing more than 200, okay? Just take these numbers times whatever. It's all good. If you're not doing 200, let me show you how simple it is to make 200 grand doing this. You want to make $200,000. You take $200,000, you divide it by your commission rate. Now, in my part of the country, we use 3%. You guys are what, 2.5%? Probably 2.5%. So the math will be a little off, but this is how you model out your real estate business, right? That's $6 million in volume. It's a nice book of business. At $300,000 a piece, that's 28 transactions. You got to have 28 transactions. Yoda said, do or do not. There is no try. How in the world are you going to get to 28 transactions? Well, we're going to start with your network. You guys have a database, right? You have an SOI, COI, whatever you want to call it. How many people are in there? And how many of those people know you, like you, and want to deal with you? And more importantly, how often do you contact them? So let me ask that question to you. If I'm in your sphere of influence, raise your hand if I hear from you more than 24 times a year. More than 18 times a year. More than 12 times a year. More than 6 times a year. That's interesting. Where's most of your business come from? Sphere of influence and referral. That's how I know you're good. That's how I also know there's a whole other layer of business that can be unveiled if you just stay in contact with people. This person has 150 people. That's all they have. They have 150. They each know 5 people in the course of a year that will buy or sell something, and that would be a total potential of 750 transactions, but we model out a 3% conversion rate. 97% of the time you don't get the deal. They don't take the job transfer, they don't come to town, they have a relationship with another realtor, they're upside down in their house, whatever. 3% conversion rate. If you have 150 people that you are truly in flow with, by the way, if you didn't raise your hand at 18 times or above, which nobody did, you're not in flow with your people. And you're subject to the third parties just getting in there and jacking with your business. You got to protect home turf. That'll get you 23 transactions. It's just a mathematical model. Now, we needed 28. We're 5 short. We're going to have to go do something. We're going to have to hustle now. We're going to have to go do something to get 5 more gigs. We'll see. Let's say that this person would see 3 FSBOs a week, 50 weeks a year. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they go get face-to-face with a for sale by owner. That'll give them 150 contacts. They'll call an expired a day, or they'll go knock on an expired door a day. Just one a day. Your day's just not complete till you talk to one, but you only got to see one. Times 50 weeks times 75%, because 25% of all expires, they really are done. They're not going to play the game anymore. That'll get you 187 contacts. Maybe you like open houses. And you agree that you'll do 20 of those a year, and you model out that every open house you count on 5 people coming through, and half of those people really are the neighbors, and it's okay. And that'll get you an additional 50 contacts. Perhaps you get 1 ad or sign call a week. Perhaps you don't ever get an ad or sign call. But if you get enough listings, you'll start having a few, not nearly like we used to. 45 weeks a year, because there's like 7 weeks you just lose in the course of a year. 40% of those people are any good. That would be 18, and then you get a half an internet lead a day from some source. 350 days times 20% of those are any good. That's 35. That's 440 generated leads times 5% conversion. It's 22 deals. This is not 80 hours a week, folks. It's not. It's probably 15 to 20 hours a week of doing the right things consistently every time. The problem we have is everything works. 9 traits of successful people. Number 1, you got a passion for achieving your mission and vision. Mission vision is such a hairy-fairy thing, right? My mission and vision, written in 2001, was to teach and train the key people in my life and the business and life disciplines so they would understand that a balanced life was what God meant for you to have. I thought if time and money weren't the issue, that's what I would be doing. And all of a sudden, people started, as soon as I wrote it, people started showing up to help me get there. Just weirdly, by happenstance, they showed up. What I know is they were always there. I just didn't notice them because I didn't know what I was trying to do. Those people are there for you as well. You're constantly learning. They take daily action on the context of a long-term model. You got to have a long-term business model, right? You got to have an annual goal for 2019, which is in the context of what you're trying to do in 5 years, 10 years, and beyond. You got to know your numbers. How good are you really? What's your conversion rate? Really, what's your conversion rate, right? You got to know and passionately explain your value. Why should I hire you? You got to go into every setting from this day forward thinking you're competing. Because you are. If nothing else, you're competing with online valuation models. You're competing with things that people read on the internet. You're competing with YouTube videos. My God, you're competing with HGTV. It's framing how they're looking at everything that you say. And you have to be able to passionately explain your value. You got to spend a little time on your business every day. That's just thinking about your business, right? You attend training only in the context of your business model. Stop going to every training class. You don't need to. You're not going to do it anyway. If you have like black cord fever and it just freaks you out to call people you don't know, why would you go to a prospecting class? You're never going to do it. We got to figure out another pathway. I have a client who said, I really want to go after expired listings. Can you help me? And I said, yeah, but can we acknowledge you will never call these people and you will never knock on their door? She's like, yeah. You got a plan? I'm like, yeah, let's try this. You have a really cool pre-listing packet. Let's mail that pre-listing packet out to people. Let's just see if it hits them. And it really is a cool packet, right? And she goes, okay, I think I need a cover letter. I'm like, okay, well, write a cover letter and let me know. So she brings me this cover letter. And it's like this realtor cover letter, right? And I go, nah, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. I said, go down to Office Depot, get some of those big yellow sticky notes. And I want you to take out a Sharpie marker, and I want you to write on this sticky note, I'm sorry your home didn't sell. Maybe I can help. Lisa. And mail them. $3.56 per piece in their hand after postage. She started this in January. She's listed 14 expireds this year simply off of mailing them a packet. See, I'm over trying to get you all to do stuff you're not going to consistently do. We got to figure out ways, right, for you to get the things done that you need to get done. And it's not just, I would call them, or I would go, I got another guy who just goes and knocks on their door, right? This is all about being consistent. And they take action. People just take action. You just go. Just do something. Get off dead center. Go do something even if it's wrong. It's better than just standing here. Action may not always bring happiness, but there is no happiness without action. That is true. You can get all up in your own head so easy in this deal. You can paralyze yourself in this gig. 3 D's of success. I'll go through this really quickly. Number 1, you better defend the people you have. You better defend your past clients, your sphere of influence, because all of these online models are trying to get between you and the customer. Every darn one of them. You got to defend your people. And since nobody raised their hand at the appropriate times, you are vulnerable to third parties getting the eyeballs of your people. You got to defend your people. Number 2, you got to differentiate yourself. In a competitive environment, why would I hire you? What are the guarantees that you will make to me? They're pretty simple, actually. What sellers want is actually quite simple. I don't have time to go into it today, but it's really simple what sellers want. You have to disrupt somebody else's business. You want to grow? You got to disrupt. It's such a buzzy word now. I hate even using it, but I can't think of another one yet. The disruptors. Oh, we're late to the party on disruption. It happened to stockbrokers 20 years ago. It happened to the travel industry longer ago than that. And we were insulated. And all of a sudden now, we're like, oh, here they come. They're already here. Defend, differentiate, disrupt, and you will have a sustainable business model. And you will insulate yourself from everybody else. 3 P's of growth. And this is what trips everybody up. Like you get that one intellectually, right? You're like, well, yeah. Well, here's the problem. In order to do that, you have to practice. And we don't practice as an industry. We're like the only industry that doesn't practice. You have to prospect. Sorry. And I don't mean you got to pick up the phone, but you got to do something to generate business, right? And you have to learn how to make presentations. Life's all about presentation. And that will give you continual growth. And then you have the 3 C's of action, and this is really this is what trips everybody up that's not taking the required action. Knowledge without action is useless. And action without knowledge is dangerous. But give me one over the other. I'll take action without knowledge. Because you always have a broker that can clean up your messes behind you. Right? Oh, yeah. You got to be consistent. We are the consistently most inconsistent industry that I've uncovered so far. I realized as a broker, if I could just get my people to be consistent, y'all would get there. Even if you consistently did all the wrong stuff, you'd still get there. You got to be consistent. Now, why are we not consistent? I mean, we get that, right? Golly, if I was just more consistent. The best part about being a realtor is you're your own boss. And the worst part about being a realtor is you're your own boss and nobody's going to make you do anything. The reason you're not consistent is you're not confident. So you will confidently do, or you will consistently do every arena you have confidence in. Why are you not confident? Well, you're not clear on what you're trying to do. If you can start with clarity and then get in a training setting that will build your confidence, because that's what it's supposed to do, you'll be more consistent. And all of a sudden, you'll be doing the proper stuff for you. Not how I would do it. Not how Michael would do it. Not how Carl would do it. Not how Rocco would do it. I'll do it different ways. Right? I got a way I do things. People think I'm a nut job. It's my way. I'm a pen and paper guy. People are like, well, you should use your phone for scheduling. No, you should use your phone. Stop it. I'm going to use my pen and paper because I like that and it works for me. 3 C's of clarity. Here's what it looks like. I am trading my time for money. Therefore, it is unacceptable for my business to net me less than X, whatever your X is. Confidence. I'm really good at this. I really enjoy this. What are the things you really enjoy? The different subsets of this business you really like. When you get to do that, you're like, that was fun. For me, it was listing presentations. I loved listing presentations. I hated working with buyers, personally. I was awful at it. I would stand by the front door and tap my foot, basically, and go, you want this? Because if not, I got like 3 more. Because I wanted to go list houses. Now, I could sit with a seller for like 3 hours. That was just me. I'm not saying that should be you. There are people in this room, you all love working with buyers and that joy that comes from it. This wasn't me. Consistency. I'll commit to doing this every day. This is the key. This is really simple. I'm not telling you anything y'all don't know. I never do tell people anything they don't already know. I just try to get you to drill into it a little bit. Biggest challenge in growing any business is being intentional. Being intentional. So who are you? I think there's 3 types of agents. I'm running out of time because we started late, so I'll go pretty quick. Ready? Everybody in the room, you're in one of these 3 categories. You got to decide where you are. Number 1, you're a pro, seasoned veteran. Here's the walk and talk of the pro. They're focused on 2 or 3 of the possible options for lead generation, and there are a ton of options for lead generation, but they're only doing 2 or 3. They know every subtle nuance of the play, and they're incredibly consistent at converting the leads that come from that. That's a pro. That's what a pro does. Pros do not go wide. Pros go deep. As an industry, we go wide. Every other industry goes deep. Then you have a tweener. Some of you have heard this before. I can't do a presentation without laying this out. You have tweeners. Now, tweeners, still successful people, but they're dabbling in some stuff they should stop dabbling in. So we're all doing activities, right? And so if you're a pro, you're doing activities and you have revenue, and the activities that you're doing are leading to the revenue. When you're a tweener, you're doing activities and you have revenue, but they're not necessarily connected because you're doing a lot of stuff you don't need to do. And oh, by the way, it's how you lose your life as a realtor. Okay? That's most realtors. Most people are a tweener. And lastly, you got the rookies. And they're everywhere and nowhere at the same time, and they wake up every morning and they're scared to death. And they have no life, and they never make it home for dinner, and they never make it to the school play, and they never make it to the kids' ball games, and it's just sick. And this has nothing to do with how long somebody's been in this business. It has nothing to do with their production. It has to do with their mindset. I don't have time to tell you all the details of the story, but my daughter went to work for a team when she was in college, and the team leader's daughter looked at my daughter and said, "Did your dad sell a lot of property?" And my daughter said, "Yes." She goes, "Then you know how it is." My daughter goes, "How what is?" She goes, "You know what it's like to look out in the audience at a school play and not see him? You know what it's like to cook dinner by yourself, do your homework by yourself, do a ball game and not have him there?" My daughter's like, "What? My dad was at all that stuff. My dad cooked dinner most of the time." And this girl looked at my daughter, made my daughter mad. She goes, "Well, he must not have sold a lot of property then." My daughter called me and she goes, "Am I not remembering this right?" I'm like, "No, honey, you were. I just made a decision that what y'all had going on was first. I had an appointment." I mean, you hear people talk about that. I did. I still do it. First thing that goes in my calendar. My kids are all grown now. First thing that goes in my calendar, golf tournaments. I got golf tournaments I'm playing in. I still love to play competitive golf. It's like my one last thing. I still get to compete against college kids. Okay? That's going in because I got a few, 50, be 57 in March. I only got a few years left. I want to maximize my years. I love doing it. I love the competition side, so I'm going to make sure that gets in. You need to schedule your calendar that way. One of my greatest mentors ever told me, he goes, "I take 13 weeks of vacation every year, and it's the first thing that goes in my calendar. And I make $5 million a year." He goes, "You think there's any correlation between those two?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I get it." The big dilemma is everything works. And you got so many options and so little time, and this is where the confusion part of the presentation comes in. Here's everything you could do. Not everything. This isn't even up to date. There are so many ways for you to skin this cat. And all of this stuff works. There isn't anything you can name that doesn't work. The question is, will you consistently do it? In every business, not real estate, just any business, there's 3 huge buckets of business. Referrals, advertising, and prospecting. I've kind of talked around about this. I'll just give you a graphic of it, right? If you could run your business any way you wanted to, how would you do it? Wouldn't you all work by referral? You need 250 to 300 people at some level of relationship to be able to work totally by referral. If you don't have that, you're going to have to either advertise your way till you get there, or you're going to have to prospect your way till you get there. And in the middle of all that is what I call tweener land. You do a little bit of prospecting, you do a little bit of advertising, you kind of sporadically contact your referral base every once in a while, and it works just often enough that you don't think you got to really dial in. And I'm telling you, you got to dig in. Then you start the tweener death rattle. And that's where, like, man, I heard that we're going to have a recession. By the way, I heard Harney speak last week when I was in Denver. He had a map of the U.S. It was so funny the way he presented it. There's a map of all the states in the U.S., and they're all various shades of blue. And he goes, this map represents the appreciation that is forecast in 2019 in properties. How much they're going to go up again in value next year. He goes, all the states in red, the property values are going to drop. There wasn't one state in red. Yeah, are we going to have slower growth than we've had? Of course. You're coming off the hottest real estate market I've ever seen. Does it mean that it's bad? No, it just means it's a little different. It's got to be willing to adjust. Tweener death rattle for a realtor is, if this thing doesn't turn around for me in 90 to 120 days, I'm going to have to quit. And the only issue is this: you're not focused. We're just not focused. That's it. That's all you have to do. Focus, be consistent. It all works. 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. There's an old book you should go by Al Ries and Jack Trout. Chapter 2 is referred to as the law of category. If you're not number 1 in a category, go create a category you can be number 1 in. And the classic example is summed up in this. Who was the first person to fly solo across the Atlantic? History lesson. No, not Amelia Earhart. Charles Lindbergh in The Spirit of St. Louis. Some of you probably never heard that name, but Charles Lindbergh flew across the Atlantic in The Spirit of St. Louis. There he is. Who was second? That guy. His name's Bert Hinkler. Now, Bert flew across the Atlantic faster than Lindbergh, and he used less fuel than Lindbergh, and nobody cared. Who was third? Amelia Earhart. New category. First woman to fly solo across the Atlantic. In fact, had she not done that, nobody would have cared when her plane crashed. Nobody would have cared. Somebody's plane crashed. You would have never heard of her again, but she had done that. She was new in a category. Law of category is massive. What's your category? Let me tell you where it should be. Your past clients. The people that you've done a great job for. You got to guard them. You got to protect them. That's your category. We spend a disproportionate amount of money. Small business spends a disproportionate amount of money chasing people that we don't know versus loving on the people that know us and like us and want to deal with us again. Principal priority states, you got to know the difference between what's urgent and what's important, and you better do what's important first. It's not sexy. Taking care of your past clients is not sexy. But it's crucial. It's boring. Only 20% of the global workforce feel their strengths are in play. You got to do the things that resonate with you. Flawed assumption, you got to go learn new stuff all the time. No, you don't. Stop trying to learn new stuff. Dig into the things you already know. Go deeper into those things. If you study massively successful people, they were just incredibly focused. As opposed to, every person in this room has talents that are enduring and unique. Build your model around that. Build your model around that. I mean, I'm lucky. I did this. I love doing what I do. I love being in front of people with a clicker and, a PowerPoint. I'm in heaven. 10 productive keys and then I'm done. Okay? 10 things I think y'all ought to do. Number one, just turn pro, will you please? The industry's just begging for more people to turn pro. Okay? Here's some pros. So Steph Curry, he's the most prolific three-point shooter in the NBA. In fact, he goes to the arena every night before a game and does what? He just shoots three-pointers. He didn't go work on post moves. Because what he's trying to do is build his confidence for game time. He's practicing. And at his level, as an elite athlete, what does he do? He practices every single day. This is your chosen field to be elite. Why aren't you practicing? Well, it's boring. I don't have anybody to practice with. Decide you're going to practice. People will show up. I'll practice with you. You want to role play, like incoming sign call dialogue? Call me, I'll do it. And I'll lay down like a dog. Seriously, 417, I'm serious. 417, nobody's writing this down, so nobody cares. 417-838-9944. That's my cell phone number. You call me, you fall into some prospecting script, I will just lay down like the best little client you've ever seen to help build your confidence. The reason we hate role-playing and practicing is because realtors are not nice to each other. You get in a role-play deal and somebody throws you a curveball that there's like no answer for. And then it shreds your confidence. Practice is supposed to build your confidence. Steph Curry does not go to the gym and practice three-pointers over like a 7-foot guy. He practices three-pointers alone with nobody guarding him to build his confidence. That's why when the game starts and he comes down, he pulls up for a three and he misses it, no big deal. I made like 500 of them before the game. I'll make the next one. If you're hot, shoot it. If you're not, shoot it till you get hot. Bill Gates, he was a pro. His whole deal was he wanted everybody to have a computer in their house. And everybody's like, what a whack job that guy is. Jordan Spieth. I'm a golfer. I had to throw a golfer in, right? Jordan Spieth. The best putter on tour from 25 to 35 feet. He's not that good at anything else. He's not a good ball striker, or he'd be closer than 25 to 35 feet from the hole. He's just really good from that distance. Steve Jobs. If you've never read the book Jobs by Walter Isaacson, you should get it. You can chart the rise and fall of Apple directly tied to this man. One of the biggest lessons in focus you will ever see. And then lastly, Warren Buffett. Berkshire Hathaway, I mentioned him earlier when I was talking about Myron, right? First time Warren Buffett invested in the stock market, guess what? He went broke. He decided he wouldn't invest in the stock market again until he had read Graham's book 12 times. Then he went back and started investing in the stock market. Never did buy a tech stock. Wouldn't invest in a tech stock because said you couldn't predict what they were going to do. He invested in boring companies. Dairy Queen, Coke, Coca-Cola. He owns Geico now. He owns a lot of companies that he just took such big positions. He's like, well, this is a good deal. I'll just buy the whole company. And then it became Berkshire Hathaway. And if you want to go buy some today, it's about $330,000 a share. Master your dialogues. Number 2, please master your dialogues. And the only way you're going to get there is practice. I'm sorry. The only way you're going to get there is to practice. Practice and record yourself. And it's gut-wrenching. I'll just tell you, it is gut-wrenching to record yourself and learn what you're actually saying to people versus what you think you're saying to people. Record yourself. It's always great to see what you're really doing. Quick story. Sorry, I know we're about out of time, but I got to tell stories. So I'm playing in the state amateur this year. I'm 56 years old. I make match play, which is no big deal. I can do that in my sleep. I get up against a 19-year-old kid. He's 6'4", real lanky. He drives it literally 80 yards past me. I know he's going to, right? But I get on the first tee, and the guy running the tournament, he looks at this kid. Kid's name was Riley Ahern. He goes, hey, Riley. He goes, you know he won this, right? And Riley's like, you did? And I go, wait a minute, dude. How old are you? He goes, 19. I won this before you were even a thought. Right? The guy that runs all the tournaments for Missouri took a I did not know this. He took a video of me. Okay? And he put the video on Facebook, which I did not know. Kid beat me. I get in my car, and my phone's just blowing up with all these notifications. I'm getting the thumbs up on this video. And then I watched this video. And I was so mad because I looked like this old man hitting a golf ball. I was all hunkered over like this, you know. And it really made me mad. And I went back to my club, and I told my pro, I go, hey, look at this. Is that what I look like? He goes, yeah, I keep telling you, you're not doing what you think you're doing. I'm like, well, I'm fixing this crap. So I started fixing the way I set up to the golf ball, and you need to fix the way you set up to do business. And I got back in a more athletic position. 2 weeks later, I made 9 birdies in 1 round. I'm like, well, that's cool. Because once I got set up properly, I could free swing, see? And so I practiced the setup. I practiced setup. I practiced setup. I practiced setup. That's all I practice. Then when I get in a tournament, everything's cool. So this sounds braggadocious. Maybe it is. I don't know. I don't really care. There's only one person that's won all 4 titles that you can win in the state of Missouri. That would be me. I won the last one, which was the senior event a few weeks ago. And the only reason it's really cool is I shot 62 the first round. Now, I had a 6-shot lead going into the last round. I had never had a 6-shot lead before. I was scared to death. And what I learned from that was processes. I learned that it's really easy to stay in your processes when everything's going okay. But it's really hard to stay in your processes either A, when things are going really well, because you don't think you need them anymore. You can short circuit it. Well, I don't need to give a full listing presentation to this person because I've dealt with them for years. And more importantly, when things aren't going well at all, you start wondering if your process is right. This is all about you guys having processes day in, day out. And internalized dialogues are the cornerstone for all of that. Living your sweet spot, that's Ted Williams, last guy to hit over 400 in baseball. He did it 80 years ago. What did he do? He would only swing at pitches that were in the little red boxes right there. You should only be swinging at the stuff that you know you can knock out of the park that you're really good at. He wouldn't swing at anything else. He was just more disciplined than everybody else. And apparently, he's more disciplined than anybody's been in the last 80 years in baseball. Because nobody's hit over 400 since 1941. So number 1, get in the game. There's a game going on. Get in it. Number 2, wait for your pitch. Because we all got one, right? You all got one you can knock out of the park. Number 3, don't chase bad pitches. Get away from people that aren't going to do anything. You should never look at your phone again and go, oh God, it's them. They were that way the day you met them. Number 4, hit according to your style, whatever it is. It'll resonate with a certain group of people. It will repel another group of people. You got to be okay with that. Don't be a chameleon and try to make yourself into what these people want to see. Always be ready to adjust. The market moves. It's always fluid. The market's different now than it was at 8 o'clock this morning. There's houses on the market now that weren't on the market before. Right? There's houses off the market that were on the market. There's people that have purchased. There's people that won't. There's people that got qualified. There's people that didn't. The marketplace is always moving. You got to be willing to adjust. Number 4, understand your value. It's not information anymore like it used to be. It's interpretation of the information that the public already has. And if you can't interpret the information that the public already has at a higher level than the public can, you have a problem. And now how do you do that? You have to practice. You have to study. Practicing, garage band people would practice more than the average realtor does. Grasp 2 things. One is what I call the power of 15. You can change your life 15 minutes a day. Spend 15 minutes a day thinking about your business. Spend 15 minutes a day prospecting. Spend 15 minutes a day studying. Spend 15 minutes a day just practicing, and your whole life will change. And then there's the rule of 2. Never let more than 2 days go by without you spending time in the power of 15 in those drivers of your business. I learned this working out. Can we all acknowledge that if you work out, you're only 2 days away from not working out again? You skip 2 days at the gym, before you know it, it's 2 weeks. And then before you know it, it's 2 months, and then it's 2 years, and then you go, well, if I was going to work out now, I'd have to spend like 2 hours at the gym. But I don't have 2 hours today, so I guess maybe I'll do that tomorrow. Maybe I'll have 2 hours to work out tomorrow, and tomorrow never comes. We do the same thing in business, right? We think, well, I'm so far under the water now, I got to prospect for 8 hours today. You ain't going to do that. Just prospect for 15 minutes. That's it. Just 15 minutes. Number 6, be a student of the game. Really quickly, you got people outside your circle of influence. That's the general public. They don't know you. They don't like you. They've never dealt with you. They don't like us. If they can figure out a way around us, they'll go there. You have your acquaintances. We all have a lot of acquaintances. Those are people that know you and like you. Given the chance, they'll use you, but given the chance, they'll use somebody else too. By the show of hands on how often you stayed in contact with your past clients, you all have a lot of acquaintances. You need to fix that. You need to move them to the next level, which is to your network. Your network will always use you, but they may or may not be referring their friends to you. That is all simply because you're not staying in contact with them. They forget about you. And then the highest level of relationship we can have are advocates. They stop traffic for you. They know you, they like you, they deal with you, and they tell their friends to deal with you regularly. The game is to move people to the advocate level. It doesn't magically happen, but I will tell you this. Next time you have a closing and there's a client there, they're an advocate for you. You did a great job. If somebody called them the next day or that afternoon, they would say, hey, you bet. Call Jane. She did a great job. I'd use her again. But they don't stay there. They move. And they don't move closer to you. They move away. Over time, the person that was your advocate becomes part of your network. Then they become an acquaintance. Then they become the general public. And they're back out on Zillow again, and you're buying the lead back. And it's your fault. It's our fault as an industry. This is how it works. You need advocates. Be good, be nice, stay in touch. That's it. Stay in your process. Real estate's a battle of processes. The goal is to identify a potential client. It's not to turn people into clients. The goal is to take people down a path, ask the proper questions, and see if they come out the back end as somebody you'd like to work with. Embrace Pareto's Law. You know Pareto's Law, right? It's also referred to as the 80-20 principle. It's a law. You'll make 80% of the revenue from 20% of your activities. But it's a law bigger than that. I love this. You will walk on 20% of the carpets in your house 80% of the time. You will wear 20% of the clothes in your closet 80% of the time. You will go to 20% of the restaurants in town 80% of the time, and when you get there, you will order from 20% of the menu 80% of the time because it's a law. And that's why we're going where we're going to dinner tonight. I was telling Rocco about this earlier. He's like, you need to try the new place. And I'm like, oh, no. I said, you were trying to get me to violate Pareto's Law here. We're going to go to the same place we always go, and I'm probably going to order the same thing I ordered last time I was there. It's a law. Here's the deal. There's 20% people and there's 80% people. And 20%ers know the walk and talk of 20% people. You can see it immediately. You can tell who the talent is. And talented people want to hang out with talented people, right? You want 20%ers in your life. But what must you do to hang out with 20% people? You got to be a 20% person. That means you can't be whiny. You can't be a victim. Why has he had the success he's had in growing a brokerage? He's a 20%er. I knew it the first time I walked in the meeting. Well, not the first time because he sat in the back and didn't ever listen to me. But the second meeting, I knew he's a 20%er. And he continues to, and a lot of you guys I know in the room, you're 20%ers. And you hang out with 20%ers. And that's where the cool stuff happens, right? And avoid sunk cost bias. This is one that people probably haven't heard of. Sunk cost bias for a realtor sounds like this. I've worked with this buyer so long now, I got to keep working with him so I can make something on this deal. That's sunk cost bias. Now, that's not a realtor thing. Sunk cost bias built the Concorde jet. Remember the Concorde jet? Yeah. It was sunk cost bias that did it. Britain and France went together to build this uber fast jet that would go back and forth. And the more they tried to do it, the more they kept building this very small, very uncomfortable plane that nobody wanted to fly on. But they said, well, we're so deep in it now, we got to keep going. Be willing to cut stuff loose. Be willing to cut things loose. If you'll model them out on the front end, you'll make much better business decisions. Okay? Avoid sunk cost bias. Number 8, Be progressive. It's just a simple word I invented. Be polite yet aggressive. Push those two. I invented this word. Push those two together, and it's called progressive. Most of us err on the side of being too polite. Most of us err on the side of being too polite. We're afraid to be aggressive because we're afraid we might lose the people. Be willing to lose people. You ain't going to land everybody anyway. Number 9, have great materials. If you don't have great materials, you better go get them. You better have a great pre-listing packet. You better have a great buyer packet. If you're going after FSBOs, it's all about materials. You better have buyer questionnaires, listing questionnaires, all this stuff. You need stuff. You need stuff if you're going to scale your business. And the biggest issue of all is master the 3 kinds of time. There's 3 kinds of time in life, guys. First kind is playtime. Now, we all want high quality, high quantity playtime, don't we? We want to go on the trips we want to go on. We want to hang out with the people. We want to go to the great restaurants. We want to do the fun stuff in life, right? We want high quality, high quantity playtime. That is directly proportionate to the quality of your pay time. Not the quantity, but the quality of your pay time. If you get high quality pay time, you make a lot of money, you can go do all the playing you want to in the really cool spots, right? But what's the key to having high quality pay time? It's high quality and quantity prep time. And that's the piece where we don't do it. See, if you spend some time every day prepping, you'll have higher quality pay time, and then you can go play. You can build things. You can build companies, right? But it's all about the prep. And for some reason, as an industry, we don't want to talk to you guys about this. And it's the key to everything. We don't when you first start out of real estate school, right? We don't sit you down and go, scripts and dialogues are the key. We say, hey, here's a phone, call your friends. They'll use you because it's just too awkward not to. It's like glorified Girl Scout cookie sales. You walk out of the grocery store, you don't really want to buy Girl Scout cookies most of the time. It's just too awkward to walk by them and not buy the cookies. That's real estate sales in the very beginning. We don't take you and train you up. We take you and go, good luck. We hope you make it. Work on your prep. Seriously, moving forward in you got what's that, the 8th? So there's 30 days in November. So you got 22 days and 31. What is that, 50 some odd days? For the last 50 some odd days of the year, seriously, go off by yourself and think a little bit. Figure out what you need to know. Hardest struggle of all is to be more than the average person. So saith Charles Schwab. And in The Alchemist, it's when we strive to become better than we are, everything around us becomes better too. Got to work a little on it every day, guys. Every day. Right? Every day. All right, we got one story. You guys heard me tell this story before? Anyone?
Yes, me.
You have? Nobody else? Oh, good. Okay. You ever seen that before? It's called the praying hands, right? It's not the praying hands. I mean, it's great that they call it that, but that's really not what it was if you do the research and understand the story. There were 2 brothers in Austria in the 1400s, Albert and Albrecht Dürer. They loved art, and they were very poor. There were 14 children in the family. And they would lay at night, and they both liked to draw, and they said, we really want to go to university. We should really go to university. We should really do this art thing. And they kind of hatched this plan. And when they're young, 13, 14 years old, and they flip a coin. And the deal was the winner of the coin toss would go off to university, and the loser of the coin toss would go into the mines and work to fund the other person. And then when they graduated, they would flip rolls. They just wanted to learn about art. So they toss the coin, and Albrecht wins the toss. Albrecht goes to university. Albert goes into the mines, and he starts to work. Well, Albrecht was really good. He was better than he even knew he was. And he starts doing a lot of etchings and charcoal drawings and things like that. And then he graduates from university, and they have this giant family dinner. At one end is Albert, and at the other end is Albrecht. And Albrecht says, brother, I want to raise a glass to you. If it wasn't for you being willing to go into the mines and work while I followed my passion, I wouldn't be able to do this. Now it's your turn. You get to go to university. You get to do what I did. Now here's the thing. I don't have to go into the mines. I'm selling my stuff now for enough money that I can afford for you to, I'll just pay for you to go. And Albert starts crying. And he says, brother, I'm very glad you got to go to university. But look at my hands. I've broken all my fingers in the mine. I can't hold a pencil anymore. I'm so glad that you got to go to university, but I won't be able to do it. But I'm glad that you did. And Albrecht says, brother, I will take care of you the rest of my life. You will come and live with me, and I will take care of you. So one day, Albrecht is drawing, and Albert's just kind of hanging out. And Albrecht looks at Albert, and he goes, hey, take your hands and go like this, right? See how this finger's crooked? Take your hands and go like this. And he drew his hands, because if it wasn't for those hands going into the mines, he never could have done what he really wanted to do. If it wasn't for Albert being there all the time, willing to do that for him, he could not have done what his passion was. There's always people waiting to help you. All you got to do is know what your passion is, guys. I'm serious. All you got to know is what your passion is. You got to be willing to gut it out. You got to get in an environment that supports that. We all live it at some level. You look at the successes in your life, this played out. Maybe somebody didn't go in the mines and break their hands, but there was somebody helping you out. Whatever level you can get to on your own, you can get there with other people that will help you, and they're waiting to help you. I hope I have helped you today. Thank you so much. I'm done. Appreciate it.